Welcome back to the Deep Dive. And if you are feeling a little bit of whiplash right now, believe me, you are not alone.
Not at all. It feels like the ground is shifting under our feet almost every single Saturday.
I mean, we are staring at a season that, honestly, just a few weeks in, feels like it has already lived about 10 different lives. It is chaotic, it is confusing, and it is absolutely fantastic.
It really is. It's a season of chaos, but I think distinctively it's a season where the floor seems to be dropping out from under teams we thought were stable.
Right.
While at the same time, the ceiling is just blowing off for teams we thought were, just average.
Think about where we were just 10 days ago. Seriously. We were talking about Alabama looking like this invincible machine, a program that had solved the modern puzzle of college football.
Yeah, the Clemson win felt like a coronation.
Exactly. And we were looking at Northwestern thinking, okay, rough start against Cal, but maybe they bounce back. And
Now it's a completely different world.
we're looking at the wreckage of Week 2 and the absolute shockwaves of Week 3, and the script has completely flipped. It's unbelievable.
It's the classic theme of expectations versus reality, isn't it? I mean, it's what we talk about all the time. You spend 8 months of the off-season building these narratives in your head.
Oh,
This team is a juggernaut, or this transfer is going to change the geometry of the offense, and then the ball is snapped, and reality just comes crashing in.
and this year, reality is throwing some serious curveballs.
Sometimes it confirms what we thought, but this year it feels like reality is actively trying to embarrass the experts.
Yeah, it really does. And that is our mission for this deep dive. We have a massive stack of sources here in front of us.
A mountain of them.
We've got transcripts from the Gridiron Breakdown. We have player stat sheets that are practically glowing red from all the insane numbers. We have game recaps and some really, really interesting deep dive analysis on the transfer portal.
Which we have to get to.
We have to. We need to parse through the noise. We need to figure out who is actually good, like is Cal for real? Is Purdue a legitimate playoff team?
Yeah.
And who is in absolute, undeniable freefall?
And to do that, we have to look past just the final scores. That's the trap. A blowout can be deceiving, and a big upset can sometimes just be a fluke.
Right.
But when you stack the data we have, the efficiency numbers, the individual matchups that were won and lost, the play-by-play leverage situations, that's when you start to see the signal in the noise.
We have got some serious aha moments teed up from that data, too.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about this one. We're going to look at a tale of 2 transfers.
Ah, yes.
Why one quarterback became like a national sensation overnight, while a star running back might be staring at the ceiling at night, wondering if he made a huge career-altering mistake.
That specific comparison is fascinating me because it really highlights how fit is just. It's everything in modern college football. It's not just about talent. We tend to think, oh, talent travels. You're a 5-star. You'll be a 5-star anywhere. But we're seeing more and more that the environment, the ecosystem you're in, dictates your production.
And we're also going to break down a specific special teams moment, one single play that might have masked Alabama's flaws before Indiana came along and just ripped the curtain down.
It's amazing how one play can create a false narrative that lasts for a whole week.
And of course, the one I know you're waiting for. We have to talk about the coach feud that turned a football game into a statement beatdown.
Oh, there's so much to unpack there. Personalities are definitely driving some of these goals, and that game was Exhibit A.
So let's get right into it. Let's rewind the clock just slightly to Week 2, the Titan Clash. Number 1 Alabama versus number 2 Clemson. This was billed as the heavyweight fight of the year.
And for the most part, it lived up to the hype. It was a close game. You had the 2 biggest brands, elite talent all over the field. But when you really dig into the source material, this game was decided on the margins.
It wasn't a blowout, no.
Not at all. But it was a game where the emotional rhythm, the tempo, was clearly controlled by one side. Alabama dictated the terms of engagement.
And let's talk about that turning point. Because if you just look at the box score, you might miss it. But all the analysis we have points to one specific moment, the blocked extra point.
It sounds so minor, right? A blocked PAT. I mean, in a normal game, you just brush that off and move on.
Yeah, it's 1 point. Who cares?
But in a game of this magnitude, the math changes everything. When Alabama blew up that protection and got a hand on that kick, it forced Clemson into a psychological corner.
How so? Explain that a little more.
Well, suddenly, you aren't just playing your game, you're chasing points. You're pressing. A touchdown doesn't just tie it, now you're still down 1. Or you're forced to go for 2 earlier than you want. It changed the entire emotional tempo. Clemson had to be perfect from that moment on, and that pressure against that opponent, is heavy.
It's a concept we see in game theory a lot.
Yeah.
It's all about leverage. In that moment, Alabama gained leverage, and Clemson had to increase their risk profile just to get back to even.
And they started making choices they probably wouldn't have made if the score was tied.
Right. And while Clemson was pressing, trying to make up that tiny deficit, Alabama just looked cool. They looked composed. I mean, looking back at week 2, Alabama had this illusion of invincibility, didn't they?
They really did. And that illusion started and ended with Denzel Gardner at quarterback. You look at his stat line from that game, 263 yards, 4 touchdowns, 70% completion.
Very, very clean.
So clean. And for the listener who didn't watch every single snap, it wasn't flashy. This wasn't a guy running around making highlight reel scrambles every play. It was surgical.
Surgical's the perfect word. It felt like he was a doctor out there, just taking what the defense gave him rather than trying to force the issue.
Precisely. It was, okay, you're giving me the flat. I'll take the flat for 5 yards. You're giving me the dig route. I'll take the dig route for 12. He just punished Clemson for giving him space. And it helps when you have a guy like Cal and Adams.
Oh, man. His top weapon.
Keelan Adams at wide receiver, and our notes really emphasize this, he was winning everywhere. It wasn't just one thing. He won at the line of scrimmage against press coverage. He won downfield on go routes. He won on intermediate routes. He was a problem Clemson simply could not solve.
And when you have a receiver who can win at all 3 levels of the field like that, it just simplifies the quarterback's job immensely.
And the playbook is wide open. There's no coverage you can call that totally takes him away.
And on the other side of the ball, I mean, the Tide defense looked suffocating in that game. They completely, totally shut down the run.
That was the absolute key. They made Clemson one-dimensional. And that brings us to the good but not good enough aspect of Clemson's performance in week 2.
Right.
Reuben Hawley, their quarterback, he's a freshman, but he played what we call winning football. He didn't make catastrophic mistakes. No interceptions. He made the right reads for the most part.
There's a but coming.
But he didn't have the explosive support. He was making good decisions, but the players around him weren't creating big plays.
Right, because Kurt Stoddard, who is supposed to be their engine, their workhorse, he had, 11 carries for 39 yards.
And there it is. That's the whole story right there. 3.5 yards per carry. If you cannot run the ball to keep a defense like Alabama's honest, an upset becomes mathematically impossible.
You become predictable.
Totally predictable. Alabama knew they could pin their ears back and just rush the passer because there was no threat of a run. So coming out of week 2, the narrative was set in stone.
Alabama controls the emotional tempo. They are disciplined. They are the undisputed number 1.
And nobody was arguing.
But, and this is the big but that we're going to get to, even in that dominant win, the sources we have suggest there were cracks. The Alabama run game wasn't exactly dominating either, were they?
No, they weren't, and that is the foreshadowing we need to keep in mind as we move forward. They won with explosive passing and a key special teams play, but they didn't dominate the trenches offensively.
They didn't just line up and match Clemson.
No, they won with finesse, and that becomes very, very important when we get to week 3.
Okay, hold that thought on Alabama, because we are going to see that house of cards shake a little bit later on. But first, we absolutely have to talk about the meltdown in Evanston. Week 2, Ole Miss versus Northwestern.
Oh, this was ugly. This was a program-defining moment for both sides, just in completely opposite directions.
This wasn't just a game. Our sources are calling this a feud. You had Coach Rick of Ole Miss versus Coach Tez of Northwestern. Apparently there was tension coming in, and the result was, well, it was a dismantling.
A dismantling is putting it lightly. Ole Miss 48, Northwestern 19.
That's a statement.
This was a message game. You don't beat a team that badly by accident. Coach Rick clearly wanted to run it up and make a statement to the rest of the country. And if you look at the stats, it was total, utter domination.
So let's look at the Ole Miss side first. Quarterback DeAndre Bruner, 427 yards, 6 touchdowns. I mean, did his jersey even get dirty? Was there a single grass stain on it?
I don't think so. The sources say he had a clean pocket all night long. The Ole Miss offensive line just stonewalled Northwestern, and that allowed Ole Miss to lean into their identity.
Which is what?
Explosive passing plus chaos. That's the philosophy. They averaged 15.3 yards per pass attempt.
Wait, say that again?
15.3 yards per pass.
That's insane.
Just think about that for a second. Every single time they decided to throw the football, on average, they were getting a 1.5 first downs. That is video game efficiency.
That's unsustainable efficiency, usually.
Yeah.
But against this Northwestern defense, it just looked easy. And defensively, they have this guy, Zach Lanier, at linebacker, who sounds absolutely terrifying.
A total game wrecker. I had to read this note twice. The notes credit him with 7 tackles for loss in this game. 7.
7 TFLs.
In one game.
Unheard of. For context for the listener, a good all-conference season for a linebacker is maybe 12 to 15 tackles for loss over 12 games.
Right.
He got half a season's worth of production in 4 quarters. He lived in the Northwestern backfield. He might as well have been in their huddle. Which transitions us perfectly to the sadder side of this story, Northwestern. This is a team that is just spiraling. They got blown out by Cal in week 1, and now they get crushed by Ole Miss week 2.
It's alarming, and the issue isn't just that they are losing, it's how they are losing. They look non-competitive. Their cornerback, Tim Carpenter, he threw for 350 yards, which looks great on fantasy football apps.
Yeah, you see 350 and think, oh, he played well.
Right. But he threw 4 interceptions. Those are fatal game-ending errors. You cannot win turning the ball over 4 times.
And here is the interesting insight from our expert notes, and I want to get your take on this.
Yeah.
Is Northwestern just bad? And the answer is yes. But the bigger problem is they are making good teams look elite.
That's a great way to put it. Exactly. They aren't forcing any adjustments. Ole Miss came in with a game plan. We're going to throw deep, we're going to create chaos, and Northwestern just let them do it.
There was no resistance.
0 resistance. They didn't make Bruner move off his spot. They didn't confuse the coverages on the back end. When you fail to provide any sort of resistance, you turn your opponent into a juggernaut. You made them look like the 27 Yankees.
Now, I want to double-click on one specific storyline inside this Northwestern disaster, because it feels like a microcosm of a much bigger trend, and that is the Iverson-Howard dilemma.
This is a fascinating case study for the modern era of college football. This is, the dark side of the transfer portal that people don't always talk about.
So let's set the stage for everyone. Iverson-Howard, he's a star running back. He transfers in from Coastal Carolina, where he was dominant. He had options. He could have gone to a more stable winning program.
He had a lot of options.
But our sources say he chose Northwestern specifically because he wanted to showcase his pro potential at a Power 5 school. He wanted to prove he could do it against the big boys in the Big Ten.
It's a logical thought process on paper. I see why he did it. I need better competition on my tape to show the NFL scouts what I can do. It makes sense.
But here is the reality check that so many players in the portal often miss.
The context of the team.
The context. So let's look at his stat line from this Ole Miss game. 9 carries, 73 yards. That's 8.1 yards per carry.
Yeah.
He also had a fumble, which isn't great, but 8.1 yards per carry is actually really good.
That's the tragedy of it. It's not like he played poorly. The tape we have actually shows him breaking tackles, creating yards after contact. He looked like an NFL back when he had the ball.
Oh, and this is the huge but.
When your team is down by 30 points in the second quarter, the game script kills you. Your individual talent becomes irrelevant.
You can't run the ball. You lose your leverage. You're forced to become a one-dimensional drop-back passing team just to try and stay on the field.
Precisely. Northwestern had to abandon the run to try and catch up with the pass, which, by the way, led to those 4 interceptions we just talked about. So Howard is sitting there on the sideline, averaging over 8 yards a carry, but he only gets 9 touches. He's effectively erased from the game, not because of his talent, but because of the scoreboard. The situation made him a non-factor.
It's a cautionary tale, isn't it?
Mm.
We talk so much about the idea of a transfer. I'm going to go get exposure. I'm going to get on a bigger stage. But the reality is, if you transfer to a team that can't stay in a game past the first quarter, you disappear.
It raises this massive, massive question for players who are in the portal right now or will be in the future. Does your individual talent matter more than the environment you're in?
Or does a toxic environment, or even just a bad losing environment like what we're seeing in Evanston right now, does it suffocate even NFL-level talent?
I think Howard is finding out the hard way that the environment might be everything. He bet on himself, but he might have lost because of the ecosystem he chose. It's brutal.
It is brutal. And speaking of teams that beat up on Northwestern, let's talk about the team that started this whole slide for them, the California Golden Bears.
The rise of Cal is one of the best stories of the early season. It's completely unexpected, but all the data we have supports it. This is not a fluke.
So they blew out Northwestern in week 1. Then in week 2, they come back and they just decimate Wyoming, 50-21.
And I know what the skeptics are going to say listening to this. Oh, come on, it's Northwestern and Wyoming, and that's fair.
Right. Not exactly a murderer's row.
Not at all. But you have to look at the efficiency. Cal isn't just winning these games, they are punishing bad teams efficiently. That is a hallmark of a playoff contender. They aren't playing down to the competition, they are executing at a championship standard regardless of who is on the other sideline.
Their offense is it's exploding. Let's talk about their quarterback, Kona Thrasher. Against Wyoming, 14 attempts. Just 14.
Barely broke a sweat.
For 261 yards and 3 touchdowns. He didn't even have to throw the ball 15 times to get almost 300 yards.
That is efficiency personified. It's unbelievable. And it's because he has legitimate weapons. Justice Williams is a name we all need to know.
The lid lifter. That's what they call him. The lid lifter. 2 catches, 78 yards, including a 74-yard touchdown. You can't press him at the line. You can't leave him in single coverage. He stretches the field vertically, which opens up everything underneath for everyone else.
And they have the balance, too, with Anthony League at running back, who our stats say is averaging 8 yards a carry.
Right. It's a pick-your-poison offense. And don't sleep on their defense either. They have a linebacker, Gabe Lokes, who is a stat sheet stuffer.
I love that term.
It's perfect for him. 10 tackles, a sack, pass breakups. He's everywhere. And their philosophy is really interesting. The sources we have call it bend but don't explode.
Meaning they'll give up yards between the 20s, but they lock down in the red zone and prevent the big play.
Exactly. They force teams to drive the length of the field 10 or 12 plays at a time. And you know this, in college football, it is very, very hard for an offense to execute 12 plays in a row without a holding penalty, a drop pass, or a negative play.
Someone messes up eventually.
Someone always messes up. Look at the stat. Wyoming ran 60 offensive plays and got 316 yards. Cal ran 31 offensive plays and scored 50 points. That is dominance through efficiency.
So it's safe to say Cal's officially on blowout watch. They have a really steady high floor and an explosive high ceiling. But if we were talking about explosive, my goodness, we have to talk about the game of the week from week 2, Oklahoma versus Purdue.
This was a shootout in every single sense of the word. This was like old school Big 12 style football being played in the Big 10. It was beautiful chaos.
The final score, Purdue 49, Oklahoma 45, nearly 1,300 yards of total offense in the game. I mean, my calculator broke trying to add all this up.
It was magnificent. And it brings us to the perfect counterpoint of the Iverson Howard story we just told. This is the transfer portal success story.
Matt Zollers.
Matt Zollers. He is the anti-Iverson Howard. Here's a guy who transfers from Mizzou. He's looking for a system that will let him air it out, a system that will unleash him. And boy, oh boy, did he find it at Purdue.
Let's just read this stat line slowly so it can really sink in for everybody. 582 yards passing.
Wow.
7 touchdowns, 27 to 40 passing.
That is a national announcement. That isn't just a good game. That is a Heisman campaign launch party right there. He found a system in Purdue that wants to shoot it out every week, and his skill set, the big arm, the quick processing, it fits perfectly. He isn't fighting the scheme. He is the scheme.
And he isn't doing it alone. The sources we have are asking the question, does Purdue have the deepest wide receiver room in the entire country?
It's a compelling argument, especially when you look at the target distribution from that game. John Sapp, M. Wire, E. Starks, they all went over 100 yards or had multi-touchdown games.
That's just not fair.
It isn't. They just come at you in waves. If you double cover one guy, the other two are in single coverage. It stresses a defense horizontally and vertically at the same time. It's a nightmare to defend.
Now, Oklahoma lost this game, but our sources are calling it a good loss, which feels like a weird thing to say when you give up 49 points.
It does, but when you look at their offense, you understand why. Darren Oden, the OU quarterback, he threw for 545 yards and 6 touchdowns himself. He matched Zollers punch for punch all game long.
The difference was just who had the ball last.
That's all it was. But there's a specific tactical element to Oklahoma's offense that makes them terrifying, even in a loss.
But it's the tight end dominance.
Trainee Washington.
Yes. Let's talk about him. 197 yards against Purdue. And then, just to prove it wasn't a fluke, he comes back in week 3 against UNC and puts up 230 yards.
That is a cheat code. In football terms, we call this a personnel mismatch. When your tight end is effectively your number 1 wide receiver, it breaks a defense's rules.
How so?
Well, linebackers are too slow to run with him down the seam, and cornerbacks and safeties are too small to tackle him or contest the catch at the high point. Oklahoma is going to be a nightmare to defend all year because of Washington. He creates a fundamental dilemma for the defense on every single snap.
And they did rebound, to be fair. They beat UNC in week 3, 47-30, with a huge second-half surge, so the Sooners are absolutely still a threat.
Absolutely. Do not write them off. They just ran into a buzzsaw in West Lafayette that day.
But speaking of writing teams off, or at least completely reevaluating them from top to bottom, we have to move to week 3. The shockwave.
The Alabama collapse.
Indiana 36, Alabama 25.
Just reading that score out loud still doesn't feel real. A week after we were praising Alabama's surgical efficiency and dominance against Clemson, the whole thing just fell apart.
So how did this happen? How did Indiana, a team that wasn't really on anyone's radar as a giant killer, pull this off?
Well, you have to start with their transformation. This is not the same Indiana team as last year or the year before. They have a new quarterback, a transfer, Taliador.
And he was fearless in this game.
405 yards, 2 touchdowns. He played with zero fear. That's the quote from our notes. He wasn't intimidated by the crimson jerseys or the brand name, but the bigger factor, I think, might have been on the other side of the ball for Indiana.
The pass rush.
Yes. Indiana's new pass rush is legit. It's the biggest difference in their team. They have speed and they have length off the edge. And they disrupted Alabama's rhythm completely.
It goes back to what you said earlier.
Remember how we said Gardner was surgical in week 2? Well, you can't perform surgery during an earthquake. Indiana brought the earthquake. They were in his face all day.
And this exposed
15 carries for 50 yards. That is the stat that lost in the football game. 1.7 yards per carry.
Oof.
If Alabama cannot run the ball, they cannot control the clock. And unlike the Clemson game, where they controlled the emotional rhythm against Indiana, they lost control of everything.
And Gardner, under that pressure, suddenly didn't look so surgical.
Not at all. He threw 2 back-breaking interceptions because he was under constant pressure, and he had no run game to lean on to calm things down. The whole offensive identity crumbled.
So this just shifts the entire hierarchy of the Big Ten, doesn't it?
No.
I mean, for years we thought it was just Michigan, maybe Ohio State, and then everyone else.
It's definitely not a one-team race anymore. That much is clear. You have to look at the landscape now and you see multiple legitimate contenders.
Okay, lay it out for us. Who runs the Big Ten right now?
Well, you still have Michigan. You have to start there. They are still the most complete team, the most physical team. They are the standard until someone proves otherwise. But now you have Purdue, what I'm calling the nuclear option with Matt Zollers. If they get into a shootout, they can beat anyone in the country, period.
And you have to include Indiana now.
You have to. They're the giant killer with a completely new identity and a pass rush that can wreck even the best-laid game plans.
It's fascinating. It's gone from a clear hierarchy to just an absolute brawl at the top.
It's wide open, and honestly, that is great for the sport.
Now, let's zoom out a little to the national landscape.
Yeah.
Because it's not just the Big Ten and the SEC that are in chaos. There are some really interesting coaching storylines brewing that we need to touch on.
The coaching pedigree in the SEC specifically, outside of Alabama and Georgia, is getting very, very interesting.
Let's talk about Arkansas and Coach Parlay.
A name that demands respect. And let's be explicit here for anyone who might not know. He is a 2-time national champion. Arkansas isn't just hoping to be good. They are operating with championship DNA now.
The sources we have say they are reloading, not rebuilding.
And that's exactly the right way to put it. They are physical, they are disciplined. When you have a coach with that kind of ring collection, the expectation in the building is different. They are a looming threat.
And then you have Texas and Coach Leto.
The culture changer. And that's what Texas has needed for a decade. They've always had the talent, the 5-star recruits. But Leto is bringing that NFL caliber discipline and structure.
Right.
He's building an aggressive offense, sure, but it's the structure and the accountability underneath it that makes them truly dangerous this year.
So the big takeaway here is that the landscape is broad. You can't just focus on Georgia or Ohio State or Michigan. Texas and Arkansas are lurking in the weeds.
The parity is real this year. There are probably 8 to 10 teams that could legitimately win it all.
Okay, so let's look ahead. We have some massive matchups coming up that are going to tell us a lot more about these narratives we've been building. First up, Clemson versus Colorado State.
This is what I call a sneaky massive game.
Okay, why is that? Why sneaky massive?
Well, look at the stakes for both teams. Clemson is 0-1 in prove-it games after that Bama loss. They desperately need to show they can beat a serious ranked opponent. Their credibility is on the line.
And Colorado State is no joke.
Not at all. They are a legitimate powerhouse under Coach Moo. He has built something special there.
And the quarterback battle is just electric. You have the freshman Reuben Hawley for Clemson trying to bounce back from that loss.
Yeah.
And on the other side, you have Brian Oben for CSU.
A certified superstar.
Oben's stats are just wild. 765 yards and 11 touchdowns already through just a couple of games.
He is a video game character, and the key matchup is simple. If Clemson's pass rush, specifically their star edge rusher, Ari Watford, can't get to Oben and disrupt him, CSU is going to score 40 points. It's that simple.
Yeah. And on the other side, watch out for CSU's free safety, Todd Robinson. The notes say he's a ball hog. 3 interceptions already this season. If Holly makes a classic freshman mistake under pressure, Robinson is the guy who's going to be taking it the other way.
The narrative for this game is so simple and so compelling. Can Clemson bounce back and save their status as a national contender, or does CSU prove they belong in that conversation?
I cannot wait for that one. But the other game we have circled, this is the one I am really, really excited about.
Oh, yeah?
I'm calling it the Battle of the Northwestern Beaters. Cal versus Ole Miss.
It's the perfect litmus test, isn't it? Both of these teams blew the doors off of Northwestern. Now they get to play each other. It's like that Spider-Man pointing meme, but with completely different offensive styles.
Those are total styles clash. One of the best of the year so far.
It is. You have Cal, which is all about control, efficiency, that bend, don't break defense that forces you to make mistakes.
And then you have Ole Miss,
which is chaos, fireworks, high risk, high reward. DeAndre Bruner will throw for 5 touchdowns, but he'll also throw you the ball 2 or 3 times. Kona Thrasher at Cal is much more careful with the football.
So what are the X factors here? What's the one matchup you're watching?
For me, it's all in the trenches. Can Cal's offensive line stop Zach Lanier? If that Ole Miss linebacker wrecks the game the way he did against Northwestern, Cal's efficient offense is in deep, deep trouble.
And on the flip side, can Ole Miss avoid the catastrophic turnovers? Cal's secondary is disciplined. They stay in their zones. If Bruner just chucks it up hoping for a big play, Cal will intercept it and they won't give it back.
My prediction vibe for this one, it's going to be close for 3 quarters. Someone breaks it open late in the 4th, but I have absolutely no idea who it's going to be.
That is the best kind of game.
It really is. The suspense is going to be incredible.
All right, let's try and synthesize all of this. We have gone on this wild journey from Alabama's perceived dominance to their stunning collapse against Indiana.
A total 180.
We have seen the tragedy of Northwestern spiraling out of control while Cal and Ole Miss surge by beating up on them. And we've seen Purdue turn into an offensive supernova with a transfer quarterback.
It's been an absolute whirlwind, and we're only in week 3.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what is the one big thought, the one provocative idea you want the listener to take away and chew on this week?
You know, we talk so much, and rightly so, about the transfer portal as this shortcut to success. We look at a guy like Matt Zollers at Purdue or Talia Dora at Indiana, and we say, see, you get a new QB, you get instant wins.
Right. It's the plug-and-play model.
Exactly. And it works sometimes. But I can't stop thinking about Iverson Howard at Northwestern.
The other side of the coin.
The complete other side. He has the talent. Our sources say he has the NFL traits. You watch the tape, he looks the part. But he is stuck in a system that is fundamentally failing around him.
He's on a sinking ship.
He is. And the thought I want you to mull over is this. In the modern era of college football, with free movement and constant turnover, does individual talent actually matter more than the environment you choose? Or does a toxic environment, or just a perpetually losing situation, suffocate even the most elite NFL-level talent? Is a bad fit transfer a potential career killer now in a way it wasn't 5 years ago?
That is a heavy, heavy question.
Yeah.
Because if you're a 20-year-old kid and you choose wrong, you don't just lose games for a season. You might be losing your future, your draft stock, everything.
Exactly.